to the Journey 2020. I'm Charles Morris, happy to be here with you on this Monday coming off the weekend. And for those that have been following the storms up north, and I have some friends that I have to try to keep in contact with, and luckily they tell me, because they live in Massachusetts, I used to go to school up there long time ago, and that they're okay. And a few of my other friends and families, they're doing okay. But just to let you know, for those up north, I went fishing yesterday. Had a very nice time. Caught a few fish, and I started to go fishing today. But I just thought I would share that with you. The Journey 2020, we've been around since 2013. And a while back, there used to be two of us. But Dr. Robinson took some time off. He's been blessed by, God gave him a different direction to go in, a new building, some new associates. As a matter of fact, it's called Robertson and Associates. He's one of the clinical psychologists here in the area, and he's doing some magnificent things. One of the things that I support and that I know that he is very much involved in, and that is the Run and Walk recovery. And he's very active in the National Black AIDS Day as well. That's an event that he's been involved with for some years now. And so we so much support him, and we appreciate him. As a matter of fact, one of his associates, and you will start to see the promo run for it, and she was on the show last week, and that is Kathy Meeks. And she is going to have a workshop that she wants to have once a month at the office where Dr. Robertson and both of them work, but she also want to come on the show, and she is going to start a seminar in sexual behavior, sex therapy, I should say, and it should be fun. But more importantly, and I was telling her that I took a sexual behavior class when I was in college. And you know, when you're young and when you're in college, you know, it's a funny thing, because the teacher said that, and he made it fun. And when you're 19, 20 years old, you're taking a sexual behavior class, and so you kind of know it's kind of crazy, fun, and everything. And so he used to always joke. He said, "Now my class is full, and I dare anybody who says that they want to take my class and they flunk my class." So that was always a big joke. So I did not flunk my sexual behavior class. So it was fun. But I say that to say this. I learned a lot because he brought in information on different cultures. He brought in information on different perspective that you never thought was part of just life. And so your eyes are open to things that you'd be like, wow. And so people and their mentality and how they approach and how you're raised and how you see things, because you come from your perspective, and you learn a lot about stuff that you just didn't think was just part of our lives. And so as we sit here and we talk about that, sexual behavior, wow. Have that not been in the news lately, according to the 45th, our president? And so I was asking myself, and I've had discussions with some of my friends, and I wanted to do a roundtable. As a matter of fact, I'm setting up a roundtable now at my church. And the round table is dealing with our relationships, boy, girl, how we see each other, the old story, but it's going to come from the biblical standpoint. So that's why I think it's so very, very important, because normally when we talk about it, it's usually from ourselves in the flesh. Mm-hmm. So I found out that when I speak to women, it doesn't matter how old they are, I would say 8 out of 10 is extremely frustrating, but I've learned that women think differently. And that was a process for me. And what I mean by that is that I'll have a lot of female friends that call me up, and we talk about what's going on. And I say, well, this is the guy, and this is why he's doing what he's doing, and this is why. So do this, and do this. And because my approach, my mentality, and how I see things, I'm giving it to them. And to me, I'm a guy, so I know how we think and da da da. But I had to learn. They like, I can't do that. I can't say that. And I used to get, then my thing was, why you calling me then? Why you wasting my time? But I had to learn that that's not how they process stuff. So that's something that was a learning for me. So now I have to I still say it the way that a guy would say it and see it, and let them take it and do what they want to do with it. So I don't get frustrated anymore. I just sit there and shake my head like, okay, all right, you don't want to fix this problem. But I say all of that to say I want to welcome my guests, and they both have been on this show before, and I want to let Miss Suzette Morgan, Mr. James Clear. How you guys doing? It's been a while since you guys been on the show.
Yes.
You're fantastic. Doing great.
All right. Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah. So I wanted to also have Ms. Crosby. I think she's going to try to come by in over the internet. Hopefully, I will see her shortly. But with all of this that's been going on in the news, but first, tell us what you've been doing. First tell us who you are and what you've been doing.
Start with me? All right. Well, I'm excited to be back. Thank you again, Mr. Morse, for having me. The last time I was here, I was able to share a little bit about what was happening with the publishing company. I'm the president of Farmore Group, Inc., which is a publishing, recording, and production company here in Orlando. Last February, I was blessed to release my second book, Living Testimonies 2. And then within that same year, we actually published 3 more books. One, I know you're going to love the title, Can I Be President of the United States at 8, by Cynthia Hughes. And then we also released 2 more books, one on Veterans Day called A Good Life by Jesse Barrington. And then we did the Intimate Relationship Guide, which is 21 ways to have a closer walk with Jesus. And so last year was a blessed year to, been able to release 4 books. And then we have 2 more titles slated for this year. And the current book that we're waiting from the printer is Lola Pitts, Green Eggs and Grits by Dion Blackman Dubas. So I get a little chuckle over here from Mr. McTeer.
You said Green Eggs and Grits.
Lola Pitts, Green Eggs and Grits.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's on the publishing side. And then, of course, on the nonprofit side, Farmore Entertainment, we just hosted our last Lift Every Voice celebration. It's your winning season. And so it was just confirmation. Even just today, I saw a post where someone shared with me, my godmother actually, that said, it's your winning season. All I do is win. And so just in confirmation for what we just did last month. And then we're gearing up for our last Independence celebration on July 6th, which is I'm Free, I Can Be Me. And so I'm excited about that.
Okay. Mr. McTeer?
Well, thank you again for having me on. My name is James McTeer. I'm a business consultant with Yes Vision Creative Consultants, a partner in that firm with Ms. Jean Tripp. And we help businesses and individuals make their dreams come true. We start at the end and help them work back to the beginning to do the things that they need to do to make their dreams come true and get in business for themselves, whatever dreams and aspirations an individual may have. So we're working with, you remember Evan Perry, working with him on some things and a couple of other people. So it's been exciting times. I went to Suzette's function in February, and the song Close by Marvin Sapp was just a song that touched my heart. So I've been playing that since I've been to that for conference, because it's, you just, when things come up, trials and tribulations come up, God is working. It's just a matter of time before your destiny, your miracle is coming. So yeah, it was really a great program and a testament that really helped me a lot back in February. So just excited to be here. Looking for some fantastic things this year. It's going very quickly, but looking forward to doing some excellent things and helping a lot of people.
Reverend Perry, how is he doing?
He's doing good. He's doing good. He's coming along quite well. He's had some challenges with his feet and so forth, but he's doing well. The book's still coming along pretty good, and we're still helping him further market it. So he's got. He had an interview for Black History Month that he did on TV 13, where they wanted to talk to him about. He had a chance to meet Martin Luther King when he came into Orlando back in '62, I think it was. So he was on that show for about 10-minute interview that he did, talked about his time with Martin Luther King and his work in the NAACP. So he was tickled pink about that, and he's just thrilled to death. So he's doing well, though.
How old is he now?
76.
76.
He just turned 76.
Okay. And for those, please go back into the archives and you will see a show. The book is called To Take a Righteous Stand. As a matter of fact, James introduced me to the book, and he kind of gave me some literature on it, and I kind of looked at it and I didn't. And so a little time went by and he brought it back to my attention. And so I started looking at it and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is some good stuff here. And so what happened was we were able to go out to his facility, and I'm trying to think of her name. Right, right. And nice lady, great spirit, and very passionate. Yeah. And so we were able to let him tell the story on the Journey 2020, and I got a lot of feedback, and even to this day I still get comments on the show. So go back into the archives and check out the show, or you can just Google the book. It's called To Take a Righteous Stand, Reverend Jimmy Perry. Mm-hmm. And please, it's worth you picking it up. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine who knows Dr. Baskerville, mm-hmm. I was telling her about it, and at the time she didn't put the two together. Okay. So when I actually sent her the show, and then she said, oh, can I buy the book? And then she got in touch because they know each other, so she has the book. And so she was like, oh, great. But I asked the two of you here, because I didn't want to be double teamed. But when I said James, I originally asked Miss Crosby, but she got tied up in traffic, and but she's trying to make it home, and she might be able to tune in over the internet. Hopefully, she can. But and I'll ask you this just in general. Our president, which I always say he has a right to be who he is. He has a right to do what he wants to do. But what is it that we say to ourselves, or who are we as a nation, when we elect him to be our leader, the President of the United States? And for me, and I ask this question this way, and I'm looking at you, mm-hmm. Okay, and I'm going to ask you this as well. With the problems that we have in our society, mm-hmm. and there's a lot that's being left out when I'm saying what I'm saying. A lot of, let's just say the men that are on the borderline, and I'm saying the borderline of trying to find themselves in the sense of trying to figure this out, who I am as a man, and how should I look at you as a woman, okay? I can tell you, and I guess I should have make this like a part two, because from a clinical standpoint, I guess I should have had Dr. Robinson come in. From the clinical standpoint of how a lot of women don't know that we identify ourselves through you. And I will say this, okay. And I want you to research, and I don't know, did I ask you to research?
No, you didn't.
Okay. I want you to research this.
Okay.
If you research the men in prison, I guarantee you 95% of them are there in reference to doing something in relation to a woman. It's going to be something as they're trying to have a certain standard of life, something to do with trying to present themselves in a certain way, a status, or something in reference to try to look a certain way, to come across a certain way, to be a certain way. when it comes to who am I in relation to how I'm viewed on this earth, and it's going to go back to most of the time how a woman sees me. See, women don't understand their power. They just don't understand their power. I'm serious. You really don't. And I say this because my pastor said all the time, and I get it as a man, and that is this right here. If more women would understand how important it is that they take these young girls and mold and mentor them and help them. I did a workshop at my summit. The workshop was called If You Raise the Bar. This is the workshop for the girls. If you raise the bar, they'll raise their pants. I guarantee you that if those girls would say, you can't talk to me with these sagging pants, you wouldn't see no sagging pants nowhere. Right. And that's the truth. Now, for them to get that and to understand what that means, that's hard work. Right. You know, but that's the truth. So that's what I'm trying to say, that if women really understood who I am through you. Now, there's a lot that I could say in reference to something that I was going through once. Didn't mean to go there, but I have to say it. You know what I'm saying? I was with a girl for 2 years, coming off something that was tragic in my life. And it was bad, in the sense of just trying to build myself back up. And to this day, she does not know those 2 years. All I ever wanted from her was to come and put her arms around me and say, you're not a bad person, it's going to be okay. She had no idea what I was going through mentally, emotionally, but all I saw in her eyes was what had happened previously, but I never did get you okay, you're not a bad person. To this day, she still has no idea how it was killing me inside by just looking at her, seeing me like that. We were young. I'm not blaming her, but my point of it is that I needed that from her more than I needed anything else. So what I'm trying to say is that if you don't understand who we are and how we look at ourselves through you, because we're going to fake the funk. We're going to fake the machoism. We're going to fake but God gave you the ability to tame the beast. Unfortunately, y'all too much try to be the beast. Y'all just try to be y'all try to be the beast. Y'all try to be me. That's the problem. So I'm building all this up to say, for those that I'm leaving, it's hard to say what I mean by those on that borderline of how they see women. When you see all these women who voted for Trump, the message that you send, it's a powerful message. Because we as men get it, who Trump is. He's not hard to figure out. There's nothing, So my question that I ask you as a woman, and let me see how can I phrase this. How do you see the message being sent to the women? Or what is the message that's being sent when they vote? Did you vote for Trump? No.
I was just going to say
I'm just messing with you. No, but I'm saying, James, you can help me. I'm speaking my point of view. I mean, you can chime in anytime you want as how you may see it. But do you understand the message that is being sent to men who says, you know what? In reality, if I have enough money, I can grope you too. If I have enough money, I can do a lot of things that, because you know what? Your standard in reality you only basing it on me and my manhood on what's in my pocket. That's the message. So for those who may be abusing women and maybe trying to figure some things out, I'm asking what you think that message is that being sent to people that are just where they are, trying to just figure some things out. Because there's, of course, there's ones who have the spirit that's going to always just be abusive and just be, you know, evil, and that's not who I'm talking about.
Right.
But I'm talking about somebody who's just trying to figure it out. They don't know, they're just trying to figure it out. But when they see that, they go, what you think? And I'm asking the both of you, what you think the message is being sent?
For me, unfortunately, I didn't do the research to find out, because for me, I would want to know, well, what was the percentage of women that actually voted for Trump?
It said 63% of the professional women.
Professional women.
Right.
Okay.
Educated women.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, the white women.
Okay.
Right, yeah. Because now those that they were saying, now the percentage is going down on the support, but 63% white, educated.
Voted for.
Right, him.
Yeah. That, unfortunately, and that can go different ways, maybe, and just in speculation, because I don't want to hold to the point that I want to say 63% of educated women saw, because there were so many things being revealed before the election, because even in the interview of the groping and the things, my thing would be, why would you elect someone like that to be president? So the reasoning behind it, maybe the confidence wasn't in Hillary. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. But going back to the point of saying, if women look at men from a standpoint of having the funds or being wealthy to be able to accept anything, that's all based on the woman and the man individually, because it's what you accept, and it's what if you're doing the compromising thing, yes, that might go with, I'm going to allow certain things to happen because you have a certain stature. But at the same time, if you know who you are, and I guess this whole thing just ties into this, I can be me, you have to first know who you are. If you know who you are, and so I'm just talking that out. When you know who you are, there's certain things, and as we're talking, actually, our president is so, graciously right there, so I'm able to see him as I say that I'm saying, but it's just knowing why the choices were made. I don't know, but as a woman, and I think that was one of the battling things was, why would you elect someone who had so many track records of doing these things? Even now, yes, we just had this major interview that took place, but there were so many signs before that even took place. So why? I have no idea. I was not in that 63%. I have no problem just putting that out there, and for different reasons other than that. But that just comes to decision making. I'm not sure if that's based on them looking at it because they have money, because I hear so many different things. Well, we wanted someone that was not in a political arena because they offer so much other things, or because he's a wealthy businessman, he can take the country to. So you have that take coming from different ways, of the comments or the feedback that I heard of how we got to where we are right now. And so whether that was part of it, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure why. It's still kind of mind-boggling to me why that majority of educated women would have voted for someone like that. But I think two things. There was a lot of variables, I think, like you said, that went into that. I think some of it was that people, what they say, if someone tells you who they are, you have to believe them. And I think there was a perception that, well, he's like that now, but once he gets into the office is going to change. Blah, 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 blah. People had that perception that things were going to be different. I think the other piece is that the morality in this country has just gone down so low that people were willing to accept things to hope to get for the better. I mean, we in this country we've gotten away from God, other than the standpoint when something bad happens and everybody, oh, let's pray, God bless us, and all this. But other than that, we don't have nothing to do with that. I was really even shocked that the evangelicals hung their hat on the abortion issue and okay, yeah, the Bible says God should not kill, but what about all the other things about adultery and lying and cheating? I mean, it's it was mind-boggling that people just kind of went for that. So I think when you look at it, and when women look at it from the standpoint of it may be a money issue, like you said, that okay, this person is wealthy, he's got a lot of power, etc. And for some women that may be very attractive. It may be very attractive that this person is that. But I think from just a basic point, goes back like what Suzette said too. You do have to know who you are, and as a role model, you'd have to just look at it and say, this is not the kind of person that you should be modeling yourself to. So if you're looking at someone who's in a situation, like you said, men look at it and say, well, gosh, I mean, if he's able to get this, all I got to do is get me some money, and I can start saying what I want to say to women too. And that's just not the case. I think there has to be some respect. I think at some point, during your life, and I think through what I would perceive as during his lifetime, he's just been able to do that to people, treat women, and they still, fame, fortune. Oh, this dog. I mean, they just excited because it's to be in his company. But at some point, you got to say my standards, have got to be a little bit higher. And so, if a man's going to talk to me that way, treat me in a kind of way, no matter how much money he has or power she has, and it's easy to say. It's hard when someone's in your face saying, "Well, I'm going to give you 10 grand for." Well, dinner with me, I mean.
Well, but honestly, James, in my opinion, like for an example, the wife knew what she was marrying. She's not sitting there looking at Donald like, Donald, really? She's not.
Yeah, I doubt it.
She's not. Speaking of which says a lot, because the bottom line is what is really being said is, and I guess my question that I wanted to ask, and I'm trying to figure out the way to ask it, and from a woman's point of view, and I probably need a round table, is it really, I'm a man based on my bank account? Do you see that as a form of protection? Do you see that as, because you can't deal with that type of person, that type of spirit, without you walking in the door just saying, I know what comes with this. And because I can live a certain lifestyle, and I'm kind of jumping over some stuff. There's nothing that was said in that interview that was surprising, nothing that nobody didn't already know. The only thing that shocked me, I shouldn't say shocked me.
Nothing shocks us.
No. The only thing that really surprised me is that he doesn't use protection. And when you live that lifestyle, and when you do what he does, it's just mind-boggling to me. Especially now, I'm gonna say this with your girl Stormy, and I did this for research purposes. I looked her up on the internet, just research purposes. just for research. So research purposes, I looked up Stormy on the internet. Okay, and I'm not judging her. But that woman, that sister is a porn star. Ain't no if, ain't no ands. She's a porn star. And even for myself, I should be like, you should have some rules. She's a porn star. Okay. I don't know how you say, you know what, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to protect myself. I just don't, that part I don't get. The macho, the ego, the narcissism, I get all of that. That's easy. He's easy to figure out. There's no, well, no, he's easy. Okay. But it's just like they sit there and they talk, and like they was talking to the Playboy model, and she's older now, and you know, but when she met, and then they sit there, and it's funny because they say, well, okay, well, I thought we was gonna go here for dinner. But no, but they kind of had the dinner over here. Or when Stormy was there, they had the dinner in the room. Okay, so now they're asking questions like, well, did you think you was gonna go? They knew, and it's like, they know who they're dealing with.
Exactly.
You know, and I'll say this, and because see, there's just so much in this, and what I mean by that is this right here. A lot of women, for some odd reason, the young girl who was the Playboy bunny, and women think like, you can help me now. Okay. Women think like this, like, okay, here's Donald Trump, ching ching, ching 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 ching. Okay, he married. I guarantee you, because Donald Trump had one of his, you know, drivers go pick her up, you know, deliver her. So, cause now, if I had met her and say, hey, James, I want you to go pick up the Playboy bunny for me, she would have been like, what? Who? She wouldn't have been, you know, that night would have never happened.
Right. Right.
So she knew this Donald Trump. So now all of a sudden, and this goes back to what we're talking about, all the rules, all my morals, all of which my mommy and everybody ever told me, just all of a sudden goes out the window. And this is what I'm saying when it comes to women, and I'm asking, for some odd reason, there's something in you that's gonna make this man leave his wife, love you the way you claim you want to be loved, when he's showing you, and you know why you there, he knows why you there, but there's something in your voice, something in the way you gonna kiss him, something in the way you gonna make love to him, something that's gonna make him something.
Okay.
Women, whatever that is, it will get you in the room. It's not gonna keep you there. And then, just to let you know, because you didn't see the interview, but as a man, and I'm going to say this to James, as a man, when they finished, he gave her money. So that tells you right there how he saw her.
Right.
Now, supposedly they had a 10-month relationship, and he said, I love you. Okay, yeah, I love you too. And so what I'm saying is, whatever that is that makes you think all of a sudden there's something about you that's going to make me go from, you know what, I'm not going to be me anymore. I'm going to be Mr. Righteous. Can you help me understand the process and where women think?
Well, you said something that was interesting, and when you were using that example, you said based on the morals and the things that you were trained. So in a way, that's an assumption that everyone was trained with those particular morals. And so that is not always the case, because right, yeah. Because as women, again, you're going to have different forms, different training. You know, different women train different ways. So some may be trained that, yes, for you to go higher in life, you do need to seek after those who have, so your life may be a little easier, but then you have some who know that's not the way to go. So when you threw that in there, I think that's a key or determining factor, is those who do have morals and those who have been trained not to sell yourself. No matter how much, you know, I have my godmother, she had mentioned to me a while back, she raised 3 daughters. And she said one of the things that she did with her daughters Well, she took them to the restaurants. She took them to the fancy restaurants and allowed them to have that. So a man couldn't come and say, oh, I'm going to take you to Red Lobster, and then you think you're going to get something afterward. So it's all in the raising and the standards. When we go back to those, how are those standards set? You don't compromise. And so that's where you're going to have, trying to clump everyone together, all women together. That's not going to work because different women have different standards.
No. It wasn't. No. I wasn't. No, that wasn't the purpose of the question.
Okay.
The purpose of the question wasn't. No.
Okay.
No. I'm looking at James. James, that's what she got out of that question. That's why I'm looking at James like James. That didn't have anything to do with all women. I'm just trying to give a perspective from a woman of how a woman may think.
Right.
That it had nothing to do with. I'm just trying to get inside. I mean, I really.
You're trying to get inside a woman in the midst of, or in the cluster of me having that mentality. I see you and that you're married, but I believe that I'm going to see.
Right. That's the purpose of the question.
Right.
Trying to. And honestly, I really get it. Honestly, because there's something. Because men are the same way. Because men sit there and I'm gonna give you the best 2 minutes of your life. Like you ain't gonna ever have no 2 minutes like my 2 minutes. So it's all kind of the same thing, And so whatever that is that builds into that emotion that we draw off of, that we build off of, live off of, and even seek. Like for an example, and I guess I can put it like this right here. I've never done drugs. I've never been drunk. I've never been high, anything like that. I've been around it all my life. But I had a close friend of mine who I was very close to, and she said, Charles, when you do crack, the entire time you chasing that first high. You're not gonna that first high you get off of that crack is what you chasing. So it's kind of like you chasing this high that you're not gonna ever get to. So I don't know. I'm just paraphrasing. I'm just guessing, because that's how we are in life, trying to reach that high, that moment, or whatever that is that we think that will connect us, to feel. Fulfilled, because I deal with, I work with the Orange County Office for a Coalition for a Drug-Free Community, and they do a lot of stuff in reference to kids and drugs and alcohol and smoking and stuff like that. And a lot of times I'm sitting in the meeting and I'm sitting there going, you can't do nothing until these people want to be off drugs, or until you figure out why they want to do drugs. Like they work with kids and the kids make up poster, and one of the neatest poster in there is like, why do drugs when you can eat ice cream? So what I'm saying is, when you get a high off of life, period, and when you understand there's something that in life that is taking you over here that you're trying to chase, to feel fulfilled, because life is not doing it for you. So now, whether or not you need to be numb for a moment to go and do this, or whatever it is, until you figure that out, you can sit there and got the prevention thing and all. You need to figure out what's going on in their lives that they're empty. That's to me. And I talked with my friend who was, she said it wasn't until I decided that I didn't want to do this no more. She said, I didn't go to therapy, I didn't go to no drug rehab. I just said, I don't want this no more, and I stopped. Boom. The crack was gone. But just to sit there and they go and they asking these questions and it'd be like, really? It's about the money. That's your answer. It's about the money. I had somebody on the show and I was asking them about, and it was Skip is a biblical scholar. He translates the Hebrew Bible, and he's gone around the world, and he's traveled with a lot of the the religious leaders and so on and so forth. And I asked him that question. And he said, Charles, normally I don't talk about politics, but he just started talking. I'm serious. I normally, but my question that I asked him, because he's worldly and he's gone around the world and they sit and they have all these, discussions, and he's talked with Jews and all the different, religions, because he's funny because he said, I got some Jewish people that believe in Christ and I got some Jewish people that don't, so it depends on, so he goes and, so I just said, why do you think Donald Trump is our president? He said, it's simple. We have become a society that what can you do for me? And that's all it is. We don't care about the whole. It's about what can you do for me? I want to know what can you do for me? And that's who we are, as it's been revealed who we really are in this country and how divided we are. And my thing is that I always say to people, it's how you see me. Okay, it's how you see me. And it's hard for people to understand, because I get into this discussion all the time with somebody that's close to me, and that is they can't understand that there's certain people who see you as below dirt. Yep. They don't, that's how they see you. You're supposed to be a slave. You're supposed to be beneath them, no matter who you are, what you do, no matter how much money you have, no matter what you have achieved in life, you are still below them. And it's so hard for them to understand that. And I don't know why. I'm serious. That's why the world is the way that it is. And it's just like, what's so hard for you to understand? But for some odd reason, for whatever reason that is, and it's to me, that's just the way of the world. It's not hard to understand. But it reveals the time and who we are and what we are, which goes back to what you was talking about, our morals and how we see life and how we live life. And so if you ever, in our culture, if you ever want to find out the solution or the problem to the situation, follow the money. That's going to answer your question 99.9% of the time. And there's a saying that if I give, excuse the expression, but it's true, but if I give you enough money, you'll slit your mother's throat.
Oh, never heard that.
Yeah. And that's the society that we live in. And so we money hungry. But in the interview, when they were talking, it all came down to the conversation that we were having. And as now the porn star Stormy, hey Stormy, she was herself. She just said it. She said, I got myself cornered into a room that I really didn't even want to be there for, something that I really didn't want to do. But this is a question that I want to ask. I don't know if you're the right person to ask this question. No, because I wanted to ask Miss Crosby as well. But I wanted to ask this question as a woman, because see, I'm not a woman.
Really? Okay.
And I'm so happy that I'm not. Thank you. And I say that because, first of all, God put so much on you. I'm so happy that I don't have to try to birth no babies. Lord, they have mercy. Ooh, Lord. Ooh. And then you got to deal with men, a man. God put so much on your shoulders. Lord, I'm so happy I'm not a woman. Oh, you got to be strong. You got to be a whole lot of things. No, that's all right. That's a journey I don't need to take. So, but the intimacy, and whatever that is when it comes to women, and I guess you're the wrong person. No, because
intimate relationship.
No. I'm trying to, and I'm trying to understand, because, and what I mean by that is, to do what you do, like I did it for research purposes, to see, the porn thing. and then you have a boyfriend or a husband, because there's some people that can separate it. So I guess my question that I would like to ask, that I'm trying to ask, the emotional part of it, could there be something there, like for an example, if you're doing what you're doing, and this is just me, because this is just when I just use Trump, when she was with Trump, and according to her, he said it was great, and to me, I'm trying to think, and when you in that position, that mindset, is it something that you could get into that I guess would be pleasurable, that can fulfill something in that manner, versus you having a relationship? So I don't know how a woman would separate, and so I guess that's the question that I'm trying to ask.
And I mean, again, it would just depend on the person. Some women can go into a situation where they have no emotional, like some men would.
Okay.
If I flip the switch on that, it's a matter of, well, how could a man have one here today and one tomorrow and not have that emotional connection? So it could be vice versa, where there's no emotional to it. Like you say, I'm gonna get what I need to get, and however it benefits me in the long run, because I may need to keep a certain lifestyle, and so unfortunately we sell our souls to whatever that may be. But to say, you know, as a woman, if you ask me that as a woman, that would be hard to do, because of the emotional that typically, especially for women, that we open ourselves to in a relationship. Now, whether to say some women could just cut it off and know that this is just for that moment, and especially when I do hear women say, it's easier for me to be in a relationship with a married person because there's no commitment.
Okay.
And so that's for some who desire that. They don't want the commitment, but the benefits that come with it, because they get certain things that they desire. So it's all going to, again, depend on that person and what you settle for, and what you see is your means of living. And so thankfully, that is not my means of living.
I'm not even, it's not necessarily the means of living. I'm just talking about the emotional part.
Right.
Of being able to say, okay, I have a boyfriend, so my intimacy is here, and when I'm with him, or when I'm with somebody like Donald Trump, and guess what? I do have her. She's here. and I don't know if you heard the question or not, but did you? She's laughing. You can, I mean, did you hear the question?
I heard part of it, but I would like
Hold on,
to
let me
hear
see.
it
Hold on. Let me
All
see if
right.
I can get you to come in. Because it looks like you're coming in here, but let's see if we can hear you. Hold
I
on.
can
Okay.
see you. I can hear you.
And while you're doing that, when I'm saying means of living, I guess I'm thinking means mentality. I'm
Okay.
not saying means of that's the money coming in for me to maintain a certain standard. I'm saying the mentality in going into that relationship of saying, you know, that I'll be willing to take what I can get. So I'll let you pull her in.
Okay, did you hear the question, Miss Cosby?
Go ahead and repeat it again so the audience can hear it, and then I can chime in after that.
Okay, I was trying to ask the question. Let me see. So I can make sure that I don't mess up the audio here, because I'm going to have to bring you up when you talk, so we don't get feedback. So I'm going to have to bring it down when I talk. But
Okay.
the question that I asked, and I was trying to do it, ask from just being able to separate yourself from being with Donald Trump when you live in that lifestyle and doing what you do. And I was asking from a woman's point of view, is there anything emotional? I don't know. I was just trying to ask. how you separate it. I mean, because as a man, I know how to do that. and I guess, you know, for a woman who, she didn't say whether or not she enjoyed being with Donald Trump, but according to her, Donald Trump said she enjoyed being with him. And it's not a Donald Trump thing that I'm asking, but I'm just asking from a intimacy when I say I'm in love with somebody and I'm with somebody, but yet this is my profession and what I do for a living. The ability to separate it, I guess is probably no different than a man. I guess, I don't know. Am I asking a good question?
Yes, you are. It's a good question. It's a valid question because, first of all, when you're in a relationship, most people don't discuss this. It's supposed to be understood, but it never is. There's an adage that men will say, I love you to sleep with you. And women will say, I love you and give you their bodies, but they really mean it. But men have usually an ulterior motive. They're not there yet. I think most of all, we want to believe what would be best for us. Best for us would be to believe you, that you love us and you really want to have an intimate relationship with me because you said you love me. And I think it's no deception on our parts. It's just we want to believe that. I did a research study with African-American HIV positive females. And one of the things that came up in the research was they believed whatever their intimate partners told them. If they told them that they weren't HIV positive, they believed them. If they told them they'd never been with a man, in other words, because sometimes men will not ever tell you that, especially if they've been to prison, that they believe them. Because again, they wanted to believe that that was the truth. And we tend to do that, and we're wired differently. And it's not a deception thing at all. It's just we want to believe that you're telling us the truth, and we'll take the chance until you prove us differently. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple other questions that I was, there's
Sure.
a couple of the things that we had talked about in reference to what's going on with Donald Trump. And not necessarily Donald Trump, but I guess my question that I was asking and what we were talking about earlier, and that is how women, and I'm asking you, am I the knight in shining armor, but to what cost based on my economic standard? Am I all of it based on my bank account? Does everything go out the window based on my bank account? Do I throw away everything based on my bank account? Am I right, wrong based on my bank account when it comes to a lot of women and how they see security, how they see me being the problem solver, how they see me being, I guess, everything that they ever wanted in life? And for a lot of women, that's the answer to, am I a man or not? And I'm asking that question.
Right. I believe that when you're in a relationship, you tend to gravitate toward those people who are similar to you in their belief system. There's also the belief, and I believe it's true, that we tend to attract people who are pretty much on our same vibrational level. And there's some cases that we also attract people that are opposite. And that may be in the case when perhaps a man sees a vulnerable woman and she may be sincere and humble and all that, but they see her in a predatory way. So I guess the bottom line would be communicate. And that's what we don't do. We don't ask questions. We assume again that the person that we're engaged in a relationship with, that they're telling us the truth. And that's not in all cases, and I'm not saying that men generally are liars or anything like that, but everything has to be validated. And if you go back to the reasons why you're in the relationship, that needs to be discussed too as well. And we don't do this. There are a lot of women, and I don't really want to categorize or even generalize for that point, but there still are a lot of women who are in relationships because they feel like they need to be validated by a man. They in the relationship because having a man with them says that they're worthy, they're desirable, they're attractive, instead of feeling all those things on their own, which is what needs to happen. But that's not happening. Unfortunately, we want a relationship to be validated by the other person when we should, in fact, validate ourselves. We should feel worthy. We should even love ourselves to the extent that we value ourselves enough that regardless of how the other person feels about us, because maybe they're not there yet, that we're still okay. And especially if the relationship does not go forward.
Well said, well said.
Someone is applauding.
That's true. Oh, applauding.
Also, too,
Oh,
I
my
think
goodness.
it goes back to what you had said earlier, very early on, about young women having older women to mentor them and to talk to them
Yes.
about what you should expect or what you can't, what you will and will
Yes.
not accept when you're dealing with a man. Because I think what
Right.
I've seen, I haven't experienced it. When I have two daughters. What I always said to them was that there's just certain standards you got to have. You can't.
Yes.
Just because you want a man or you think you need a man, you can't lower the standard. Not that you're better than anybody else, because you're not, but you can't, if you expect a man to treat you with respect and open the door and say and communicate with you, then you can't accept someone who's, say, get out there and get you a job and curse you out. Or that's lowering your expectations.
But that goes back to what I was talking about before when I did the workshop called "If You Raise the Bar, They'll Raise Their Pants," and that goes back to looking at yourself and understanding your value. Because I still say to this day, women really don't understand their value and how we see ourselves through your eyes. And I'm telling
Right.
you, if you go and research,
Absolutely.
the majority of the men in prison is going to have something to do with a woman trying to portray myself as the man. Trying to deal with the
Right.
ego and wanting to be this and that. And by the way, I will say most of us do lie. And
It's on camera. It's on camera.
yeah. Actually, let me put myself on camera. Most of us do lie because our interior motive, because we have a motive. Okay, now women may not understand what that motive is because women ask the question, well, what? Well, men just lie to lie. No, we don't lie to lie. There's a reason to lie. If telling the truth gonna get me to first base, what you think I'm gonna do? I'll be truthful all my life. If telling the truth gonna get me where I need to go, I'll never tell a lie in my life. So we don't just lie to lie. There's a reason why we lie. There's a motive there's a motive behind the conversation, and however you want to phrase that, I don't like, for an example, to show you how naive I was, and I'll say something that you may not understand, but man, I don't know if I'm trying to figure out how can I say this. When I was younger, the fact that I could spend time with you, the fact that you would give me time, I was so appreciative of the fact that you would even be intimate with me. So I looked at that as that you allowed me to be in your world, and that I was so appreciative of it that I used to thank God because that's how I viewed it, because that you would share that with me. But that was my mindset. So I wasn't there in the sense of trying to take advantage of you. I was so appreciate that you would even look at me that way. I was like, wow, she would look at me and want to do that with me. So I was like, I must be somebody special, because I didn't just look at it that you would just do that with. And by the way, what you said was very true. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that way because now I'm trying to look at myself. But this is the honest truth. as God is my witness, I could be in the room with 100 women, and it didn't happen time and time and time and time again. I'm saying I could be at the club back when I used to do the club, back when I used to do the club, and I would always in the club meet up with Miss Goody Two Shoes. Every time I end up with Miss Goody Two Shoes, not purposely trying to end up with Miss Goody Two Shoes. I end up with the woman, the girl who, well, yeah, you have to do this. You have to. Never end up with the girl who just said, "Come on, Charles." Always end up with Miss Goody Two Shoes.
But you know why?
Speaking
But Charles,
hold on.
you know why?
Hold on.
Right? Okay. All right. You know why?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Back to my point. You attract people who are on the same emotional level as yourself. So you were Mr. Goody Two Shoes, wanted to be Mr. Bad Guy. Don't you think? If that's what you were attracting on and on, that means you were Mr. Goody Two Shoes. And you were you were the counterpart to the woman who basically was looking for somebody to validate them. And when they did, you felt validated and you felt worthy to the point that you thank God. That's interesting.
that is very true, though. Because to me, well, I was raised by women. I was raised by my mother, my aunt, and my grandmother. Okay. So I was raised by women. And so the idea of the fact that a woman would let me into her world was just like, wow, you would allow me to be in your world like this. So that's how I looked at it, but again, anyway, I wanted to ask you, well, actually, you know what? You need to tell us who you are and what you do. I mean, because it's been a while since you've been on the show.
That's right. That's right. I am Dr. Ada Elaine Crosby. I work 25 years in the Department of Corrections as a mental health clinician and take screenings. And I did all sorts of other things. Up until 2013, when the governor of Florida decided that he wanted to privatize health services within the Department of Corrections, I became unemployed. In other words, I was kicked out of prison. How do you get kicked out of prison? But anyway, I made it that I don't want to profit off people's failures, because that's essentially what you do when you let go state workers and you hire companies who are in the business to make money off of people's failures. So I could not live with myself with that. So I had an opportunity to leave, and I'm glad I did. And then I decided to do some freelance stuff. I did in-home counseling and what have you. And I continue to do a lot of things on my own. I'm in the process of writing a couple of books. Hopefully I have one published last year. It's not a complete book. Actually, it's an anthology based on dissertations in care. And I just happen to have a research study that I did that I really would love finally to get published on why 9 African females not only seroconverted to HIV, but they also offered advice on how to prevent. And some of the things that we've talked about really hinges on that, simply because in order for African American women to convert to the virus, or as we say in the medical field, seroconvert, which means they become infected, is they usually do it in heterosexual relationships. Almost 85 to 90%. That's significant. And maybe other percentage may be through IV drug use. So that means relationships really need to be explored extensively, because people really put their life on the line. Because when you go to bed with a man, you go to bed with pretty much everybody that he's ever been with. And same for him. So it's so important to communicate and know who your partner is and know as much history about him or her, because at least 2 of the 9 women know for sure that they got the virus from a man who had been in prison. One, in fact, said someone on the streets told her that they knew for a fact that the man that she was sleeping with was having sex with men in prison because he just knew about it because he was in prison. So communication, again, is so key and crucial in relationships. We don't ask the question again because perhaps we're just so glad to be in a relationship. It's even to the point that some women, and again, I'm reflecting on the group of 9 women, knew that their male friends, their partners, their boyfriends were in other relationships. And they accepted it because at least they had them some of the time. And that's really sad. And going back to another point, I want to say also that we really do need to educate our females. We need to educate them simply because they're not getting that other source. If you look at sex educations in the school system nationwide, very little of it. Perhaps because administrators don't want to get involved in that. They're too busy handling other things. But we really need to have sex education. And along with that, we need to have relationship education, because chances are when you're meeting at school, that is the place where you're going to explore and have relationships and have sex with people that you know nothing about their backgrounds. So I believe that there needs to be education, there needs to be some mentorship, there needs to be a lot said to young females especially, because I think we're the most vulnerable in relationships based on what Charles said about men that lie for their motives. So I believe that we really need to mentor, we need to educate, and we need to do it at an early age too. We don't need to wait until they get to high school. We really need to start as early as probably elementary or even early junior high school, and start having these discussions with our daughters as well as our sons, because we really need our sons to treat a woman, how and not what to do, because along the lines of miscommunication, there developed something called sexual assault. And it's at all-time high, as you've heard in the news in recent times, that especially on college campuses, women are basically open targets. And it's just so acceptable in our culture. But we don't do anything as a society until it's a crisis. And we have a crisis. We have a relationship crisis because there's absolutely too many women being sexually assaulted. And men get away with it because of miscommunications, perhaps. So I believe this discussion is a line of really, where do we go from here? So happy to be at the discussion, and I appreciate everything that was said, because everybody is really on point tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you, because you was asking if you're available next week, certainly, because I definitely would like to ask you some more questions and get some feedback from you, because when we were talking about I guess this thing that's going on with our president, I was saying that I really wasn't surprised about anything. The only thing that really surprised me was that he was having unprotected sex. That was the only thing that really, surprised me about the interviews with the 2 women, and knowing that. If Wilt Chamberlain slept with over 5,000, I can only imagine how many Donald Trump, and I'm just guessing, Donald. I'm just guessing, but I don't think that Wilt had near the ego as Donald Trump. But that's the only thing that really surprised me about the interview. Everything else was very, predictable, was the fact that he was having unprotected sex. But then when I was thinking about the wife, because to me, there's nothing in the interview I was saying earlier that the wife going, I'm really shocked, because she knew what she was getting into when she married him, I would say. Yeah. So my question is, what would she be thinking? The fact that she's having unprotected protected sex, because there are some women that I know who says, you know what, I know my husband's out there, long as he's having the protected sex, boom, 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 you know, whatever that is, a man gonna be a man. I've heard that too. But that's a whole nother thing when you're not having, you know, protected sex, you know. But what I mean, I'm asking you, what do you think about that, Dr. Hospi?
Think about him having unprotected sex. Well, that's part of his huge ego. He probably figured that he's immune and he can't possibly contract anything like an STD because his ego is so big. The Donald, of course not. That would never happen to him. So I think in his mindset, that's kind of protective for him. And he probably thought that the caliber of women that he was dealing with was just above board, that they probably would not be involved in any other relationship except for him, even though he probably was also involved in some relationships, other than his wife, of course.
All right. Yeah. Well, that was the thing with me, because I'm saying, you know, again, for research purposes, I Google Stormy. I Google Stormy, and let me tell you, she is a porn star. Ain't no if, ain't no ands about that. She don't have no rules. Okay, everything goes. Everything goes. And so I'm saying to myself, I'm like, you want to be with this porn star, and you don't. I get being a man. I do get being a man, but I don't get that. Yeah. I really don't get that. You know, and I don't know. I guess I'm kind of funny, huh?
Yeah, you're not narcissistic.
Oh, okay.
Okay. See, again, he's protected more or less by his super ego. He feels that there's nothing wrong with whatever he does. And that's part of why he lies so much too, you know, because he believes all the things he says are truthful because he has this huge ego and he can never be wrong. Everybody else is wrong. And that's why we have so much fake news, because they just don't get it right with him. But I believe that he thinks perhaps he's raised the bar, so to speak, because here he got a porn star. Maybe that was just another shit in his belt. I don't know. But if you just think about him and his personality, whoever that he would attract, he probably figured would just be subordinate to him anyway, because he figured he could pick anyone and have anyone that he wanted to, and pretty much he did. People refused him. I would hate to be the one who would, because his ego is just so big. That's what keeps him going, his ego.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up here, but I want to ask,
right.
I want to ask the three of you, because, well, you didn't watch the interview, right. So that you watched the interview. Mm-hmm. Okay, was there anything in the interview that did you watch the interview?
I didn't watch it in its entirety, but I did watch some of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm asking, was there anything, and I'm asking everybody, was there anything that surprised you? Was there anything when you went like, whoa, anything at all? No.
No.
She's shaking no. Okay, so you.
No, I wouldn't say anything that surprised me, because I think what hearing the fact that she was threatened, that wasn't a surprise, but it was kind of like, okay, that's kind of typical for if you're running in those kind of circles and now you cross someone. I mean, that's kind of what you expect, that someone's going to say, hey, you better stop being quiet if you value your life or value your family. So to hear her say that and still be doing what she's doing kind of says, okay, you know, she thinks it's that important to get her point out, whatever point that may be, in terms of she wants to be able to tell her story, but she's getting dragged through the mud anyhow. I guess she figures it's best for me to tell my story. Because that was my thing, is, well, why are you telling the story now? You just took $130,000 to be quiet. Now all of a sudden you don't want to be quiet. What's the purpose of telling us? Why you put yourself through this? But she says, well, my name's being dragged through the mud anyhow, so I want to go ahead and
Right.
and tell my side of the story to get. Okay, so I can understand that. I mean, if you're already going through the mud, then I might as well tell my piece of the mud. So
Wait, which one? Which one you talking about?
I'm talking about Stormy.
Storm. It was.
Yeah,
Stormy.
I was wondering what's the purpose of telling it now? I mean, you got 130 grand for not to say anything. Now all of a sudden, and you were getting drugged through the mud. But she said her purpose was she wanted to at least be able to tell her side of the story, so people can. Is he telling the truth or not telling the truth? But at least I told my piece of the story. So that was interesting to me because I was like, I don't know why would I put myself through all this at this point? Other than, again, now she said she turned down millions to take the 130,000. So maybe at some point now, and she says she's not doing it for the money to try to make it up. So you're like, okay, well. So I guess it's a personal thing now in terms of I need to get my name. Or I need to give my side so then people can make up their mind what they want to do. So I kind of understood that. I won't say that was surprising, but it was interesting to me to hear her explain, because that's what my thing was. Well, why are you even doing it now?
No. All right. Well, I'm going to invite you to come back next week because I do want to hear more, because my question that I asked in actuality, I felt funny because I didn't want to ask Suzette certain things, and I don't mean it the way that it sounds, because I don't think that you can come from. I was trying to get a woman perspective, but that's not her world. But with your expertise and the people that you've talked to and the field that you work in, you probably would be able to answer some of the questions from the standpoint of your experience. I know better than to try to get into a woman's world, try to get into her head and try to get into her emotions, because God did not give that to me. Thank you very much. And so, but I would like to just ask the question, because I think the bottom line goes back to what I was saying about, and you kind of answered it in reference to what you're used to and your personalities and how they come together and stuff like that, because I just always say that it goes back to the money. It goes back to how you value yourself. It goes back to how you see yourself and how you see others. And so if you're willing to come back next week, that would be great.
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
If
Sounds
you guys want
like
to come back next week.
plan.
What was that?
Sounds like a plan. Yes.
Oh, okay. If you guys want to come back, I'm inviting you to as well. So I mean, that's totally up to you guys. So if you want to come back, we can, finish up. And I definitely would like to hear, because I mean, you can tell with her experience and where she been that that she has a lot to say. And then there's some other questions that I would like to ask anyway. So again, just to say that. There should be a part 2. There's going to be a part 2.
Part 2.
There's going to be a part 2. So that
Or is
means
it
but see, just the look on her face, Suzette look on her face like, you don't have to research me. You don't need to research me. It's like, no, I know, just a look on her face like, no, I'm a good girl.
Okay. We can talk about some different things, but yeah.
But it's still a woman,
Yes.
a woman,
Yeah,
a
definitely.
woman, and so that's me trying to get the perspective, because, I can say that there's some guys who don't want to, and I'm not anybody special, but there's some guys who really don't care about how you feel. They don't care about what you think. They don't care about what you go through. And unfortunately, I'm one of those guys.
Wow.
I'm serious. It has always, it always got me in trouble when I wish that I was like some of the guys just go walk away. But I had to care about how you feel. So with that being said, and I'm gonna, are there any last words that you like to leave us with?
I would like to extrapolate from something that I read by Dr. Miles Monroe. He wrote a lot about relationships and marriages and what have you. And he said that when you don't need to date, and we're talking about dating relationships, when you don't need to date, that's when you need to date. Does that make sense? And I always say that because most people feel like they just got to be in a relationship. I had a friend call me, well, actually a friend's sister, and she said, I really, Ada, am ready to be in a relationship, and I just don't know what to do. And I say, well, if you really, really looking, chances are you're going to probably find what you really don't want. I would just let it go for now. And I told her the same thing I just said. When you don't need to be in a relationship is likely when you need to be in one. Isn't that something kind of an oxymoron? Yeah.
Oh,
So-
yeah,
and
definitely.
we can pick up from there. Yeah.
Okay, well, we can pick it up from there. Okay, all right, okay. See, yeah.
Well, I do want to clarify one thing that Mr. Moore said. Is she still talking?
Yeah,
Okay.
No.
Okay, no, what you said, not to say Suzette is a goody two-shoe and so she's never made any wrong mistakes.
Well, wait a minute.
No.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. You would never hear me say that. You would never hear me say that. I did not say that. I may have called you a Miss Goody Two Shoes, but that door is wide open.
Okay.
All right. You know, isn't it interesting when the good girl trying to be a bad girl? You know what I'm saying?
Boy trying to be a bad boy in the club, right?
Boy, that's some funny stuff.
No, but I think a lot of times, depending on where we are in life, because of mistakes and because of relationships that we allowed ourselves to be in previously, we know what we will not accept and tolerate. You know, and so that kind of feeds off what Dr. Cosby is saying. It's like you realize in things that, especially when you know better, you do better. And so in previous relationships, I know of that point of being in a situation of someone doing something kind and you're thinking in order to repay, you have to do X, Y, Z. But when you get wiser and the gray hairs start coming in and you realize, no, I have to know my worth, knowing my self-worth. And I think that is the discussion as far as the mentoring and being able to share with younger girls and younger women of that important fact of knowing who you are, because you did allow yourself to go some certain places that you shouldn't have been. So I just want to clarify that.
Right.
With you, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Nailed it.
Yeah, she's actually saying thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, well, we will pick it up next week. And I want to thank all of my guests for taking the time to hang out with me on a Monday. And we will be back next week. We're here every Monday from 7. Actually, it's a little after 8, but yeah, we good. and we pick out the Miss Goody Two Shoes and everything else and all of that.
Okay.
That is so fun. I would never say that. Okay, I've been I got enough gray hair in my head to know better than to say that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
No, he can't.
Actually, I'm sorry, Ms. Dr. Krause. What is it that you were saying?
We are what we think we are. If you think you're a Mr. Goody Two Shoes, then you are, and there's no harm in that. But again, we have to relay that to individuals who think that perhaps that's something bad, because they're actually girls that think being Miss Goody Two Shoes is a bad thing. But I guess it's all in how do you define it, because in some settings, in some relationships, a bad girl is probably what they feel like get the guys or get most attention. So we got to change those ideals. We do. We have to change it to just have people love the skin that they're in and figuring out who they really are and fall in love with themselves first before they fall in love with the wrong person. How about that?
All right. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
The title of next week's show: How to Fall in Love with Yourself.
Okay.
Boom. That's it.
I love it. I
Yes,
love
yes,
it. That's awesome. Okay. Love it. How to fall in love with yourself.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's where you need to start. Wouldn't you agree, Suzette?
I definitely agree. Love that. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Again, I want to thank my guests for taking the time to come and hang out with us on a Monday here at www.thejourney2020.com. We will be back next week, and for sure, I've already named it. I've already, proclaimed it. So everybody got to show up. I don't care what nobody say. Everybody got to show up. So that's just the way, that's just the way that it is. So with that being said, I'm Charles Morris, and I want you to enjoy the rest of your week.